What's going on, everybody? trueeevil here, and today's guide is how to farm Aurora on auto in Hell 4, which is going to be some people's most difficult threshold boss to farm. So this guide is really going to break down the most important parts of the fight, and then we're going to show an auto of it in continuous play. Now, the most important things to pick up when you're autoing is that you're not going to be able to really hold some of these skills that you're going to need. For example, with Aurora, they are going to be able to do things such as apply immunity to themselves. If you're doing this on continuous play, it's more important to have the multiple despellers than just have that one that you rely on, because you're not going to be there to be like, okay, it's immune, so now I'm going to do the skill 3. The auto battler isn't going to be able to do that. So for my idea is that I want to have 2 despellers, and there is multiple ways to do this, and the first one I'm going to mention is the SR option, which is Viper. Viper is going to be able to apply a ton of Dispel, because not only does his skill 3, which I recommend to max out to make it have a 3-turn cooldown, but he also has it with his passive, where after he gets 4 stacks of the scales, his counter attack is going to be a skill 3, which despells. So having Viper on your team is really going to maximize how many times you're going to be dispelling. And for that second option, there are 2 that are really stand worthy. The first one I'm going to mention is Holden, just because he's on the banner right now and I really enjoy him, and I'm going to make him one of my main characters in this game. But his skill 3, which is the skill I recommended a lot of people to max out first in my guide video, it just really helps because of the res down, which means you're going to be proccing a lot of your debuffs during that window where he loses his immunity, as well as the attack down. So with Viper and Holden both having attack down, it pretty much means that Aurora is just always going to have attack down, which is really helpful since those attacks can pack a punch, especially because of the unique buff, which is Curse Shield, which I'm going to talk about with the healer. But before then, let's talk about one more Dispel option, which is a really hot unit right now, which is Mia. Now, the reason why Mia has been being used significantly is not only is she has a heal that can extend buffs and shorten debuffs on your team. The most important thing is you're most likely going to use Ling Luo as your healer for this, since she's the best healer, and she is going to be able to extend your Whale's Prayers, which is going to be absolutely crucial on this boss because of Curse Shield. So not only do you not need a ton of investment on her, you just need to put some modules, but she's going to be dispelling the immunity with a pushback. Now, there is a lot of pushback defense, so it's not going to be a whole ton, but we have multiple chances of dispelling the immunity, as well as just a heal, which is going to be really important. Now, for Hell 4, I don't need 2 healers. For Inferno, you may need to use Mia and Ling Luo. And the reason why we only need 1 healer right now is because on my Ling Luo, we are going to be rocking Fortissimo. Now, for your shell option, because of how strong Curse Shield is, sometimes even with the skill 3 on Ling Luo, which is a great heal option, it's not going to heal enough to be able to break the Curse Shield, which is going to make it so your units can't do damage unless they break it, but more importantly, you can't heal them unless the shield is broken. So we're going to use Fortissimo with Swift Rush and Cure. Now, the reason why Fortissimo is so strong in this boss is because it's going to hold those initial heals that you do that you don't need, and then when Curse Shield comes out, it's going to proc the Fortissimo on Ling Luo's turn and give that additional healing, so that her skill 3 or skill 2 along with the Fortissimo is going to actually be able to heal your units. Because what ends up happening with the failed attempts is that you just didn't provide enough healing to break the shield. So using this is definitely huge, and I highly recommend using Swift Rush Cure on any of your shell that you're going to use. Now, if you don't use Fortissimo, the next best option on shells is Gigabyte, and honestly, Gigabyte might be better than Fortissimo. I just prefer Fortissimo if you're only using one healer. Now, if you're using both Mia and Lingluo, I highly recommend trying 2 gigabytes, and if that doesn't work, 1 gigabyte, 1 Fortissimo. Either or of those options will most likely be enough to succeed in this boss fight. And then for our final using, we are going to be using Ditting. And the reason why we're using Ditting is not because he's the best DPS for this fight. He is just a really strong universal DPS. He provides vulnerable and he does a lot of damage. He doesn't outperform characters like Rosa, but because he's an SR unit, he is just a really nice, not the best at any for specific DPSs, but he does replies with a reliable damage. He's sort of like the single target version of Messiah, except without all the crazy combos that go along with it. So this is the team we're going to use to auto Hell 4, and let's get into the fight and see how it goes. So the very first thing in the fight that you're going to want to make sure to do is have your auto attack order set to make sure Aurora is the primary target. You're going to want to make sure this is set because if they do some reason attack the paper puppets, you're going to have a bad time, especially if you're using a unit like Ditting. So just heads up on that. Now, I am using Lighthouse for that extra heal, which I think is really important on Viper, but it's not going to make or break anything. And as you can see, with that initial heal, he is able to get a little bit extra HP off the heal because the Lighthouse does work on Curse Shield and breaking it. And now the Fortissimo, which is the shell I said, is going to start storing all this extra heals, which is really going to make it so you only need one healer in this fight. You don't want to have to rely on someone like a Lingluo and a Mia because it's just going to make the fight last too long. Now, in Inferno, it might be different. You might actually need all of those, but in Hell 4, you want to be able to do this with one healer. Now, as you can see with the Curse Shield, we are now going to have the Fortissimo proc. Oh, it's still on cooldown. It's okay, though. As you can see, without the Fortissimo, it doesn't heal enough to get everyone on the home team, but now it does proc, and it does clear 2 people's shields, and then clears everyone's. So, Fortissimo, really, really helpful. And as you can see, even though we have 2 Despellers, it's still pretty hard to guarantee the immunity is always off. So that's why I like having 2 Despellers in this fight. I also like the Artisan just for that extra defense. Artisan is one of my favorite shells. Any shell that can provide some support is generally really strong in this game. And there's the counterattack, which is really nice. And Fortissimo triggers, and that is enough to break the shield. So you can actually deal damage. What a lot of people struggle with in this fight is just not being able to heal enough to break the Curse Shield. So using Fortissimo with Cure Matrix is definitely the way to go. A little bit extra damage and push up there. Let's hope we can get a nice heal. Now let's hope this is enough to kill. If not, we might get a little iffy here. But this team's a 100% win rate on this. I've done 40 fights so far, and all 40 have won. So even though my Viper isn't fully built yet, and we're using 2 5-stars, this team is still good enough. So if that Ling Luo heal isn't enough for you to be able to beat this fight with the Fortissimo, what I recommend doing is also using a Mia as well. And you can either use a Fortissimo on one of them and a Gigabyte on the other healer, or you can use 2 gigabytes. Now, Gigabyte is really good in this fight because there's 2 minions, so it's pretty much always a 35% turn meter increase every round, which really helps cycle the abilities. And Mia's AoE heal is going to prolong the Whale's Prayer, which is going to be really important in this fight, and she is just also an additional despeller. But as you can see with one healer, we were pretty good to go. That was a 40 out of 40 out of the attempts, and even though it does take 3 minutes without a Lily or another like really overpowered unit, what is the most important is we're able to win the fight 100%. And it's more important at this stage of the game to have that 100% win rate so you can farm the momentum and bulwark and strive pieces so that you're able to clear Inferno. So hopefully this helps you if you're struggling with Aurora. If there is any comments or ideas you have, please list them, as well as if you're struggling with something in this fight and you don't have necessarily the units I pointed out, please leave a comment and I'll try to help you the best I can. And if I'm not reaching out on a comment on my YouTube, there is definitely going to be someone in my Discord who can help. So that's it for today. Hope this helps.